For the longest time, Mastery has been an absolute terrible stat for Havoc Demon Hunters. However, in Dragonflight, it's looking to change, and in fact, our whole stat priority might also change with it. So like I said in the intro, Havoc stats in Dragonflight are actually looking to change pretty substantially to what we're looking for, compared to what we've been looking for in both Shadowlands and, to my knowledge, BFA. This is actually going to be pretty big. For a long time, we are haste verse stackers, and this is looking to change. So before we get into it, a lot of viewers aren't subscribed. So if you like seeing this content, consider subscribing. It really helps me out. We're heading towards 1,000. That's super sick. Let's get into it. So for a long time, we as Havoc stacked versatility, which I literally don't have any of on beta, and we stacked haste. Those are our best two stats. Haste allowed us to fit in more chaos strikes, which in turn allowed us to get more I-beams out, which in turn allowed us to just be better. Haste also interacted really well with Blade Dance and Immolation Aura, just really lowering the cooldowns on those things. We were able to get a ton of haste. It lets our brand tick more. It let Knife A Dot tick more. In the past, it let Infinite Stars hit more, that kind of thing. So haste has always just been really good for us. Crit, there are times where crit has been better, where critical strike was really good. In 9.1, we wanted crit due to Winds of Winter. Crit right now is pretty decent because we're just getting a lot of haste naturally, and crit on Sinful Brand can hit pretty well. And then Mastery is just kind of always been garbage. We never really wanted to take Mastery. It's just never really been good. We kind of avoided it, right? It just gave you the chaos damage and the movement speed. The reason why Mastery was bad before is because chaos damage itself was actually a really low amount of our abilities. So if you look on beta, on alpha what you're running, on live what you're running for chaos damage, really it's just Chaos Strike and I-Beam, and then improved Fell Rush here, Unbound Chaos. So that chaos damage, right, the amp just increases very little amount of things, right? Even if you're running the other build, even if you're running like a Night Fae Demon Blades build, where you're using Blade Dance and stuff more, it didn't deal chaos damage on live. So Mastery just kind of does nothing, right? It doesn't do a lot of damage. It's a percent amp, which is good. However, that percent amp just doesn't affect much, so it loses a lot of value for us. Haste and versatility really were the way to go. And whenever versatility is one of your kind of best stacking stats, you know that your class doesn't really have any hooks to tie it into other stats, which honestly, never really good in class design, right? Like Windwalker for the longest time also had the same deal where they're just running verse. Yeah, it makes it really tanky, but it means that your class doesn't have hooks to tie you into stats that you want. So you just pick one stat that's decent enough for you, and then versatility just kind of fills up the rest. It's just boring class design. It's never really that fun to stack verse. You don't really feel that different. It's just a passive damage amp and reduction. So it's kind of boring. However, a lot of that is changing in Dragonflight, and we're actually getting a ton of hooks into a bunch of different kind of talents. Stats that allow us to kind of differentiate what we're doing. So effectively, we can look at this talent tree as three different branches, right? You have kind of this left side here. You have kind of like the middle here, and you have the right side here. And each of these are kind of pushing us towards a different stat that we want to pick, and that's actually kind of really good. So the left side, we're going to talk about crit first. So this is kind of like the more crit side where you want that crit damage. We have hooks and critical chaos, which basically chance of chaos strike will refund is increased by 50% of your critical strike chance. So right now, I have 22%, so chaos strike has an 11% additional critical strike chance refund. You have stuff like Know Your Enemy, which is crazy and probably one of our best talents. Gain critical strike damage equal to 100% of critical strike chance. So that's effectively giving me 22% extra critical strike damage. Of course, it's going to gain more the more stats and everything you have, which, again, really good. And then you have stuff like Rage Fire, which wants your Immolation Aura to crit, because every 3 crits per pulse, you're going to take the damage and store it into Rage Fire and do a big explosion. So you have those hooks that kind of really lead into the crit damage. You have stuff that's sort of similar, Sunrises as well. You have Soul Rend, which if your Glaive crits, you'll deal more. We took out Looks Can Kill, so now I-Beam can scale with crit if you're not taking that talent. So you have a few things that kind of really do scale with that crit stuff. We have stuff that gives us more crit with Initiative, and with Chaos Theory, which gives crit to Chaos Strike whenever you Blade Dance. So there's a lot of more things that want us to kind of lean into that crit playstyle, right? We have stuff that we're stacking crit a lot more. So crit, I think, is going to be one of our better stats come Dragonflight. And really, on this left side, you really want to stack it, because, of course, Essence Break critting is a big deal, because it just does a lot of damage. So on the middle here is more of our haste side. So you have stuff like Furious Gade giving you the haste buff. You have Relentless Hunter and Inner which don't really synergize at all. Then you also have Cycle of Hatred and Shattered Destiny. So when you combine these two talents here, what you want is going to get really similar to the old playstyle of Havoc Demon Hunter, where you're stacking as much haste as you can, and going into like these big demonic windows where you're trying to reduce I-beam cooldown as much as you can and extend the duration of demonic by spending a bunch of fury. So by using these things and kind of stacking a lot of haste for that, you're able to kind of get low cooldowns on I-beam. You're able to get stuff that it really extends the fury window for your Shattered Destiny, which makes this a lot more interesting if you have haste in the middle here. Finally, we have Mastery. Now, Mastery as a long time is kind of interesting because it's just been really bad, like I mentioned. However, realistically, the big talent that makes Mastery a lot better, plus a lot of other small stuff, which I'll get to in a second, is Any Means Necessary. So what this does is that while you take this, your single school magic damage is dealt as Chaos instead. So Chaos as a damage type is really interesting. Effectively, what it does is it takes 7 different schools of magic. I believe it's everything except for holy damage and physical damage, and kind of tries to deal them all at once. So if you have a resistance to a magic type, it won't use that magic type. It'll pick kind of the one that you take the most damage from. Likewise, anything that affects a certain school of magic. So for instance, Charred Warblades makes you heal for fire damage. All your chaos damage also is fire damage, so you will heal for that Charred Warblades. The same thing is true that if you get kicked while you're channeling I-beam, so you get kicked for chaos, you're locked out of all schools of magic except for holy, I'm pretty sure. I believe holy is in the chromatic school, which is why we deal chaos as a chromatic. It's a weird damage type, but that's basically what it is. So this makes all of our single school stuff be dealt with chaos. Now, what is single school? Well, we have nature in the terms of the hunt, so that'll get a lot of benefit from that. We have fire in Collective Anguish, Immolation Aura. Those are both amps. It doesn't directly amp Rage Fire, however, it will amp Immolation Aura, allowing it to get bigger. And then we have Shadow in Demon Blades, and finally we have Elishing Decree with Arcane damage. So all those things kind of give that chaos damage buff that like get amped by Any Means Necessary and allow you to kind of do that more damage there. In PvP, you also have stuff like Chaotic Imprint, which isn't working at the moment, but this should work with Any Means Necessary, causing it to always deal chaos damage, which will be interesting. So this hook really likes us to be in Mastery in forms of AoE, right? In single target, this won't do as much because a lot of our single target abilities are already chaos damage, right? Whew, let me just unclick that. Since a lot of our single target abilities are already chaos damage, it does lose a lot of value. But we like Mastery anyways because of a lot of new buttons that were added. So we had a lot of things that could deal chaos damage before, but we weren't able to take them all at once, right? But now that we have stuff like I-beam that deals a lot more damage and can hit a bunch of different targets at once, right? We have stuff like Essence Break, which is a big hit of chaos damage. We can take Glaive Tempest. We have our buffed Unbound Chaos. We have First Blood doing chaos damage now. We have Trail Ruin. All these things will now deal chaos damage, really will push us more into that Mastery, letting us kind of enjoy that stat a little bit more. One final thing that really changed stuff is the fact that our stat changes are actually different. So shout out to a train for doing this. He went to the beta, did a bunch of math to figure out how much rating you need for 1%. So for 1% crit, we need 220 rating. For 1% haste, we need 209 rating. For 1% verse, we need 249 rating. And for 1% mastery, we need 122 rating. So that's about half as much as the others, which means that Mastery is now one of our fastest scaling stats, right? So a little bit of Mastery will go a long way in causing us to gain a lot of that stat, causing a lot of our chaos damage amps to increase. Well, this means that in a lot of scenarios where we can cleave stuff like I-beam, where we can cleave stuff like things from AMN, like Immolation Aura, like Elishing Decree, like the Hunt, like CA, Mastery will gain a lot of value and actually won't really be that bad of a stat anymore compared to how it was back in the day. Now, of course, you're also going to take Pursuit, which means you're going to be a very speedy boy, 10% increased movement speed, yeet, you can just kind of zip around, which is a very fun side effect. But really, a lot of this is kind of opening up different builds, right? In the end, no one knows what's going to be best. We don't have sims, we don't have anything like that. But because a lot of these different hooks are there to tie us into different stats we want, we have stuff that wants crit, we have stuff that wants haste, we have stuff that wants mastery. Of course, versatility will never be bad. Demon Hunter kind of has a lot of options in their gearing. And who knows how it's going to end up. It could just end up being take the highest level thing because we want all of our stats anyways. But we'll see how that happens. And in fact, it's really interesting and really unique that we're going to be able to use our other stats we haven't before. I'm super excited to be able to kind of just build different builds. Now, there is a world where maybe you want to hard stack different stats for different builds. So you need 2 gear sets. I personally don't think that'll happen. I think your stats realistically are going to be very useful for each build. You will want to hard stack one stat compared to the others depending on what you do. Like, you're going to want to hard stack crit and mastery if you have these two. You want to hard stack haste if you have the middle. But the rest of the stats are all going to be important too, which really is where you want to be for a class, right? It really allows you to be more flexible in gearing, allowing you to be more interesting as a class design, in my opinion. So that's it for today. I just want to do a quick video on different stats and how things are changing. I'll update this when we do like sims and stuff and see how stats actually end up being. But realistically, the way we're going is really interesting. We're moving away from just haste versus always, moving into maybe any stat is good depending on your build and stuff like that. I think it's a great direction to be moving in, and I'm excited to see how this turns out. So I'll be having more videos once a bunch of the bugs are fixed. Today's video was supposed to be dungeon testing with different builds, but we're so bugged right now. Ragefire doesn't really work properly. AMN and Know Your Enemy don't work. Demonic doesn't work properly. Like, there's a ton of bugs right now that I just don't want to deal with and give you guys like skewed results and skewed values and stuff like that. So I'll have those whenever they are more readily testable. But for now, that's kind of the discussion on stats and Dragonflight. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know, if you're excited to be using Mastery finally, if you are interested with the crit builds, that kind of stuff. And I want to appreciate you guys for watching and all the support in my videos. We're almost 1,000 subscribers, which is crazy. And again, just really appreciate everything. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.